disclaimer, this is going to be a very, very casual panel. There's not going to be any slides. Because this is an AMA, it's going to be very non-structured. We're going to start with a general, like, here's some information, and then here's some information about us, and then it's going to be basically an open MMA. While this panel is kind of geared towards plurality and especially like experiences towards us as a gateway system, feel free to ask any questions. Though to be aware, this is an under 18 panel. We're fairly close to being an open book, but again, 18. This is not an 18 plus panel. So feel free to ask us about our plurality, alter humanity, our spirituality, what our favorite color is. I don't know. Hello, everyone. So we're going to get started. Again, this is going to be a very, very casual panel. Just to start things off, a brief introduction. We are the House of Chimeras system. We are a mixed origin plural system. We do have a DDNOS diagnosis from way back in 2012, actually. Dang, that feels like that was a long time ago. And we are, among other things, as we prefer to refer to ourselves as, a gateway system. For the people that don't know what a gateway system is, in the briefest of explanations, a gateway system is a system that experiences their inner world, the world that a plural system experiences in their own heads, in their own minds, as being an actual, like, alternate reality, either literally in a metaphysical or spiritual context, or if you're a strictly psychological perceive plurality as strictly psychological, you can see it as being like how you perceive your inner world as being just a very complex paracosm. So yeah, that is the briefest of definitions of what a gateway system is. The term itself has existed for a distinctly long time. We first came across it like back in 2008, 2007. So it's been around, and we know it's probably been around a lot longer than that. But yeah, it basically just means plurality is experienced as there being the people that are in a system are experiencing both this reality, the one that we are all communicating to, and a separate reality that is distinctly different. The way we like to describe it as, there is the objective reality that we experience outside of our body, and then there is, around our body, and an subjective experience that we experience. That was two words at the same time. Anyway, within our own mind. So yeah. Other things about us, having to think, because sometimes the problem with being a system is it's like, okay, well, where do we start? For us, our we prefer the word inner world. Some people prefer headspace, because we experience our inner world as a world. It is a actual, like, planet. It has continents, it has weather, it has seasons. The sun and the moon and the stars in the sky don't even match how this world's solar bodies work. Weirdly, in our inner world, the sun and the moon are perfectly polar opposites. So literally, as the sun is setting, the moon is rising. There is, unlike with this world where the moon actually has a completely different orbit. So yeah, they're perfectly diametrically opposed. Other weird things, completely different continents. We have suspicion that gravity is slightly different. Um, and in our inner world, there is not only us who are actually, members of our system, but there's also a huge plethora of non-system members, NPCs, if you will. Phone is falling asleep, so I'm going to make sure that I'm not losing any questions in chat. Yes, thank you for in the panel questions. Someone posted a direct copy paste from the Pearlpedia page on gateway systems. How did you guys figure out you were a gateway system? We started suspecting that we were a gateway system. Relatively early on, we noticed as we started exploring our inner world more, as we started accepting our plurality more, we realized that there was just a lot more. For us, a lot of our awareness of our inner world is it's an experience similar to Niyamata, where similar to like how you might have awareness of your alter humanity, just an awareness of like information about it. We also get that with our inner world. So that's how we know a lot about the various continents, the various civilizations, cultures. Because yeah, fun fact, for our inner world, it's not just humans. Our inner world is um, like it's stupidly similar to your stereotypical high fantasy world, kind of. There's also, but oddly enough, it's like, yes, there are dragons, there are elves, etc., etc. But it's not like medieval. Uh, they're not stuck in like medieval society where there's not um, like there are actual there's trains, cars, etc., etc., and magic. So it's a very weird hodgepodge of different kinds of technology running around everywhere. Um, let's see. Yes, we are this same Chimeras that has the Chimera library. Yes, that is our personal website, which we are in dire need of updating at some point. We have been kind of away from the community, or at least not very active in the community for the past year and a half-ish. We've just been kind of focusing on other things in our life. IRL life has been kind of hectic, and we kind of accidentally burned ourselves out working on some very big alter-human related projects. And we just kind of have been hyper-focusing on that and not being super active online or writing anything that we can post on our website just right now. Have the NPCs ever joined the system? Yes, though it is very rare. Most of the NPCs do not know about us, just because there's only a finite number of us, and there are hundreds, thousands, millions of that are NPCs just running around doing their own life. They've got their own stuff going on, so they have no awareness of the plurality that we are a part of. And the few people that seem to know of our individual existence, we apparently are become very quickly becoming the equivalent of cryptids. To give an example, a couple of deer in our inner world. Sorry, that's a tangent for 1 second. Here's a tangent. One fact about how we exist in our inner world is we can be injured and even killed, but we do not stay dead. We basically respawn. Lack of a better word to keep taking like RPG and game related terminology, to use as for our own. There is there's a forest where several deer, they're part of our system, were just kind of, doing their thing, and they kept like being hunted as deer, and because of the nature of their abilities, they accidentally spawned a like folklore myth about these deer that cannot be caught or killed in this forest, and they started freaking out the local towns, and they had to like move locations because they're like, oh no, we're causing something. um, so yeah, some of us in our system are rapidly becoming the equivalent of cryptids in our inner world. um, and it doesn't help that there are people in our system that are of species that do not exist in our inner world. So that's an even bigger, like, what is, yeah, there's a lot of, like, what is that? What's that over there? That happens with the quote unquote NPCs in our inner world. Going back to panel questions to make sure we didn't. What's the difference between system member and NPC? What defines them as being separate? How we separate people in our people that exist in our inner world, people that we define as being a part of our system are defined by a couple different criteria. One, they are independent entities, so we do not consider our daemons a part as a member of a system because they are a daemon, so they're a part of someone that's in the system. The other two main very important things is they are connected to the collective consciousness that connects everyone that is in our system, so we're able to communicate with each other. Since most of us are non-human, we do not actually speak a spoken language to each other in our inner world. It's kind of a telepathy kind of thing. Only people that are members of our system can do that to one another. We cannot communicate the same way to anyone that is an NPC. So the only way that we can communicate with someone that is not a member of our system is to either take a human or humanoid form where we can verbally speak, or play telephone to someone that can do the same thing that can take a human or humanoid form in our system to speak for us. Let's see. Does having a rich inner world have an impact on desire and need to front and interact with the world? It does definitely have an impact. Because a lot of because of our rich inner world, we have a means of, if someone has very severe, say, species dysphoria, they don't have to front. In fact, it's fairly often for people that regularly front to be like, my, gender dysphoria is too bad today. My species dysphoria is too bad today. I'm not fronting today. Who is going to take it from me? You? Yeah, that kind of a thing. You are just finding someone that has less dysphoria or is more interested in something that's going on in this reality, and basically shoving them at front. And whoever doesn't want to front, can run away off and do animal things, and they don't have to worry about human body stuff. So that's kind of how it is for us. So other aspects, sorry, we always feel that this is because this is such an AMA, there is not a strict way of us doing this, so it feels very disjointed for us. So hopefully it's not being very disjointed for everyone here. But yeah, for us, our experiences like feeling phantom limbs, we only have phantom limbs when fronting in this body, because in the inner world, we can just have our non-human forms or adjacent to our non-human forms. So we don't experience things like phantom limbs to the extent that we do in this body. Checking questions. Can you repeat the questions that you're answering? Oh, sorry. Yes, we will try to remember to do that. And also try to remember not to mumble the question a little bit. Because sometimes we have a bad habit of doing that and not speaking very clearly. One edition of our someone asked, one edition of our headspace is connected to another system from another dimension, and another person asking says, does this count as a gateway system aspect? We would tentative say yes. Plurality is so weird, and being a gateway system is such a thing, whereas there's just a very general definition, and just there's so much stuff that could fit into that definition, and so many things where you could have asterisks beside it, where this could be something that could be experienced as asterisk usually. For us, we do have experiences similar to that with a couple of people that are also part of our inner world that are not members of our system, but they're definitely systems for others. But that is a whole other can of worms. We are comfortable with talking about it, but it is a lot, and we could really end up in a really large tangent if we started talking about that. Let's see. Security Purple asks, what did we miss? I had to leave for a few minutes. We've mostly just been starting to answer some questions regarding gateway systems, both as a general topic and our own personal experiences. How do you guys figure out a way to try and prevent being burned out? We usually try to remember not to hyper focus on things. That's like regarding our writing, we caused ourselves a very bad amount of burnout. Trying to work on too many projects at once, getting hyper stressed out at them not being absolutely perfect because we are a really bad perfectionist, and especially in details like our citations. And we accidentally burned ourselves out because we wanted our citations to be absolutely perfect. And that is not possible when you're having to jerry rig your own citations, because the um, the Chicago citation style, which is what we use, does not know how plurality works. How do you cite plural system and make it coherent to be like, this is one person from a system, and this is the person that we are citing, but they are a part of this system. The Chicago doesn't have anything like that, so we're having to jerry rig our own citation rules, as it were. And we just burn ourselves out trying to make that work. So we're still slowly recovering from that. Do you have any consistent friends in your inner world that is not part of your system? Not particularly. There's a couple of people that we are friendly with that are not part of the system. Though usually it is very difficult to interact with people that are not members of the system, just because like a huge majority of the people that are in our system are non-human. And while there are non-human species, sapient species in our inner world, they would still find it incredibly weird to try to have a conversation with a talking wolf. For example, it would still be very weird. They may have there is magic. There are anthropomorphic dragons. There are elves, etc., etc. But it would still be very, very weird to try and have a conversation with the wolf. How Amber asks, how would you describe your experience and perception of Earth reality versus inner world reality? How are they different? Does one feel more real than the other? We wouldn't say necessarily that they feel one is more real than the other. They just feel like they're two different frequencies, if you will. Um, if someone is focusing more on their inner world, their perception of this reality feels, well, it's like we're dissociating, honestly. Um, Back to from a psychological perspective, we are dissociating when we are focusing more on our inner world. Um, but the same goes for the other way around. If whoever is fronting is hyper focusing on fronting and having to focus on like what I'm doing now, uh, my body in our inner world is basically dissociating heavily, because my awareness is uh, focusing far more on this side of things rather than what's going on that side of things. So it does make a quite um, distinctly different experience. Though obviously, because our perception is, at least on this side of things, is heavily impacted by, we have a brain. Brain does a lot of perception, so there is a little bit more focus on this side of reality. Because, yeah, we've in the past tried to describe how everything works based on computers. Um, like our physical brain has only so much RAM that it can use at any given time. And unfortunately, perception of this reality, which is what our brain has to, what we have to use, hyper focuses on this reality and doesn't let us have too much leftover RAM to focus on things that are going on elsewhere. So sometimes there is a bit of a limit on how much we the RAM problem is so real. Oh, totally. And I swear the older we get, the worse it becomes. Um, yeah, we are in our mid 30s, and the older we get, the worse it feels. In some ways, like in some ways, we're so much better with our dissociative experiences, but in some ways, it feels worse. Let's see. There's so many questions, and we're trying to get through as many questions as we can for everyone. Does the gateway system have to be world size, or is the definition more like inner world is a separate place? It's definitely inner world is a separate place. We have met of and heard of gateway systems that are actually connected to multiple realities, um, or multiple planets, or however they can describe their experience. It is just basically an experience of a separate place that is a different reality than this one. Um, Hank asks, we recall some frequent fronters mentioning on our your website with names that are similar to titles or experiences. Are these names mind speak, so to say, like telepathic vibe thought based communication? Also, do these names come naturally or are they earned through experience? Um, this How our names work in our system is very, very weird. Um, our brain, most people, they describe their thought process as being very like it is very based on speech. So the whole idea of running dialogue as how your thought processes work. Ours does not work like that. How we think is not based so much on words as it is emotions, um, thoughts, memories, sight, smell, everything, but not like English words, to put it generally. So how we name each other in our system is actually very different than how we like we'll say like for example, my name, as I would describe it to anyone outside the system, is Earth Listener. But how I am called within the system is not, word for word Earth Listener, because it's a word. Those are two words. But how our names work instead is our names are a clump of thoughts, experiences, memories, impressions that mean a certain person, that symbolizes a certain person. So if we have someone that wants to be referred to in this reality, we have to somehow narrow that down into something that makes a lick of sense to someone that we could type out. So Earth Listener is a synthesis of everything of how someone would think of me into words that are bite size and actually sound okay together. Sometimes it's a lot easier. Sometimes people have names that are a lot easier to come up with others. Like Earth Listener sounds like a odd but still functional name. Other people in our system, there are people who we still struggle to find a good means of describing them in, a word-based name. Other oddities with our names is some of us are fictive/fiction kin, so we have the names that we have from our fictotypes, which many of us answer to those names. Others of us have like nicknames that we've gained over the years, either from people outside of our system or inside of our system. The handful of people that are in our system that do speak. So for myself, I am referred to as Earth Listener, San, Earthy, among several other names. Paige's name for us is, among other things, Puppy. So, yeah, names are very weird in our system, and sometimes it can be kind of confusing for people outside of our system to know who we're referring to. So we try to be very careful on how we refer to ourselves outside of our system, because otherwise someone's going to be having like 5 or 6 names and they're like, who? Looking at the questions. We're trying to get as many questions as possible, but sorry if we do accidentally skip your question. It is not being malicious. It is, we're looking at the questions through our phone, and sometimes Discord updates and we don't realize where we left off. Would you ever consider telling someone within the inner world about being a system? There have been occasions where we have tried to describe it to others that are not part of our system, and there's varying levels of how that has gone. In our inner world, there is a concept of, there is a known awareness that there are people that are not from that reality that end up in our inner world. So there is a people that are native to the world are aware that there are other worlders that sometimes end up in the world through various means or just unknown means. Though not necessarily, those people are not necessarily members of our system. Weirdly enough, we thought that was the case, where anyone that is a quote unquote other worlder would be a member of a system. Nope. We discovered that the hard way when we came across a xenomorph, and we were like, what the that was a time. Well, yeah, that was a big no. So yeah. Yeah, xenomorph jump scare was an entirely, yeah, is entirely accurate. And it was even worse because the jump scare happened to a member of our system that is a Yaocho, which if anyone knows what that is, yeah, it was a fight. It was a fight. Yaocho. uh, let's see. Discord, you've made me lose my place yet again. Can you conjure new parts of your inner world, or does it sort of exist entirely independently? Yes and no. Um, there are a handful of people that are members of our system that appear to have some ability to manipulate reality. We do not know to what extent that actually happens because we kind of don't like um, one, we don't like thinking about it because that brings up a lot of uncomfortable thoughts of how do we have these powers as far as our inner world is concerned. But we also sometimes question, is it so much that we are actually able to manipulate the world, or is it so much of a case of just becoming aware of other aspects of our world? Um, that's a bear that we sometimes really don't like to poke at. In fact, the very first time that the concept came to mind, my poor brother, Sky Singer, spent like a whole week having an existential crisis on the fact that he had the fact of, oh my gosh, he basically had a, oh my gosh, are we semi quasi demigods in our inner world? And he did not like that thought process at all. Um, so we've occasionally like played around with the thought, um, but then very quickly become very uncomfortable with the idea and just stop thinking about it. Just because the possibility of like if we thought it like the possibility of if we thought about it very hard, could we just spontaneously create a whole new continent? Is not something we like to think of. Oh, nothing wrong with being God. As someone says, nothing wrong with being gods, but I don't blame you for feeling daunted. Yeah, yeah. There's just kind of we especially when it comes to us, we do us as a system collectively, we do not have very high self-esteem for ourselves. It's mostly related to trauma. Um, we have been told by many people that they look up to us very highly, and again, because of trauma, we can't believe them. Um, so the very idea of us having like an importance, the idea of having anything special regarding us is just mind blowing. It does not compute with reality. Phone, stop falling asleep. What do you mean that's not our fingerprint? Of course it's our fingerprint. Our phone decided to lock and it kept saying, "This is not your fingerprint." Yes, it is. Um, question. Do you ever see or explore your inner world while your body here sleeps in your dreams? Yes, most definitely. Consistently? No. But does that happen? Yes. We can also, people that are in our inner world can also share dreams with other people in our inner world. Um, let's see. So yeah, dreams are very weird. The person that is fronting does not necessarily have to sleep when our body is asleep. But yeah, dreams are very weird. Sometimes we have dreams that are relating that we're not actually dreaming. We're just awake and aware in our inner world. But sometimes we have experiences where it's just a dream. And sometimes we have experiences where we have to put a big question mark of, did that actually happen? Or was that a dream? And the sad thing about subjective reality is you can never easily know for sure. Let's see, looking for more questions. Have you ever met an otherworlder in your inner world that is also has a connection to, or a body in this meet Earth? No, we have not. Um, we have um, we know we've met and interact with someone that is from another Earth, but it is most definitely not this Earth. Um, his Earth is almost exactly like this, um, but um, to give an example, um, the US president who won the election in 2013 was not Trump. Unfortunately, he won the next election, so it was very weird when we were like trying to compare and contrast like minor political things and stuff that was going on. So yeah, in his reality, Trump has had two consecutive presidencies as opposed to uh, where he was in term for one, then he was not in term, and then he's now at term again. So that ran us down a rabbit hole of trying to compare and contrast other things that happened. Who won the election in that world instead? Hillary won that that particular election in 2016 in his reality. Things did not go well. So yeah, we went down a whole rabbit hole of trying to compare and contrast, but it felt too much like things were too similar. They just happened at slightly different times, or they were slightly out of order. Yeah, he's not from this reality, but he is from a reality that is very similar to. I'm also trying to keep an eye on the time. This is only an hour panel. If people still have questions, or if we missed a question, you're just very interested in us answering one, feel free to ping us somewhere, like in the plurality chat afterwards. Um, and we're happy to continue to answer questions afterwards. So if we don't get to your question and you're just, it's burning that you must know the answer, feel free to, we can continue answering questions outside of this panel. Uh, is there any aspect of being a gateway system that you use as a tool or that's practical in any way on your day to day? You mentioned a few, but it would be cool to know if there are any more. It's definitely the biggest thing is it's definitely a tool of avoiding dysphoria, avoiding burnout. Um, Other than that, it's can't think of anything hyper specific other than those two. Anything else is kind of incidental. Like it's made it a little bit easier for us to explore alter humanity to some extent, um, or know exactly what we look like in our as a I know what I look like as a wolf because it's so much easier for me to just look down as opposed to people that don't have that ability. Do you have a favorite food? Depends on who you ask in our system. Um, Me, I'm a big fan of pizza. But if someone puts a chocolate cheesecake in front of me, even though our body is heavily lactose intolerant, I will want to devour the entire thing. Uh, Consequences be damned. Especially if we make that chocolate cheesecake from scratch, which we can do. We have a very much beloved chocolate cheesecake recipe that we adore. Someone asked, what is a gateway system? Just to reiterate, a gateway system is an experience where a plural system experiences their inner world, headspace, whichever term you prefer, as being an actual other reality. That is a very bare bones basic definition, because everything else that you could add to that is going to vary depending on who you ask and how they personally experience their own plurality. Let's see. Questions. Have you ever tried to build parts of your inner world in a game or something? Yet we've never tried building in a game, but we have tried drawing. We are not a digital artist, but we are big fans of um, like we do a lot of sketching, we do a lot of color pencil drawings, and we have dozens and dozens of pieces of art that we have started or even completed that are like, here's what this small continent looks like based on what we know of with our Niamata at any given time. Um, we have various folders and subfolders in our on our computer where we find like images of things that remind us of bits and pieces of our inner world. Or we write down like various facts or factoids that we discover to kind of keep tabs on what we know at any given time, because it's fun to kind of compare and contrast what we know at any given point and see if things have changed over time. Like, has our perception changed or have we gained more information? Which is very useful for us because our memory is shit. And then we can't even blame it on time loss. Our memory is just shit. We still have another 10 minutes and we're trying to keep going through questions. We can't think of any advice. Sorry. Um, the question is, what advice would you have for someone who suspects that they're a gateway system, if any? Unfortunately, we can't really think of any real like substantial advice. Outside of what helped us the most is we stopped worrying about it. We just kind of accepted things as as they come. We tried not to put too much focus on putting labels to things and just kind of exploring, just letting things be and worrying about how labels might fit or not fit our experiences after the fact. Um, Up until recently, we still sometimes had a debate on if we would consider ourselves a gateway system or not, until we finally just accepted that it fits, or at the very least, it fits enough Like we, while we do lean towards a metaphysical, spiritual uh, view of our inner world, we don't necessarily completely disbelieve in a psychological explanation either. We just kind of like it. We just kind of like throw up our hands and go, this is just how it's experienced, and move along, because we've tried, anytime that we try to get to force things to have a concrete, definite explanation for something, we always kind of fail at it. Either our plurality is too complex and too weird, or we're just not very good at conceptualizing that. Da, 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 I know that we've missed so many questions. What are some fun things you like doing in your inner world? Kind of depends on who you ask. Like Ocean Watcher, he mostly spends his time with his husband and their kids. Yeah, he has kids. Of the three of us who thought who would have kids, if any, at some point in our world, he was not of the ones. And yeah, last year he found a partner, and we were like, "What? You?" For me, I love um, mostly interacting with a lot of the other wolves and canid adjacent people in our system. People watching is a lot of fun as well, because there's still so much that we don't know about our own inner world, and that we're still discovering about the various countries and the traditions of different people, and also what's just going on in the world, literally. Sometimes it's really petty shit, stuff that's going on between towns, and it's like, this is amusing, what the heck. And sometimes it's just very weird, and we're like, it doesn't matter what reality we go to, there's going to be drama. uh Wonderlight, there are no dumb questions. Seriously, there are no dumb questions. uh and your not dumb question is, how do you know what's going on in your inner world? For us, it is like a an experience that it's just an awareness that we have in the back of our mind, or sometimes not if we're focusing on it more directly. For the longest time, we kind of assumed it to be just really heavy daydreaming. And again, if you prefer a very psychological explanation for things, it is basically just a very in-depth, heavy daydream. But that's how we perceive it to be. We're just kind of, instead of focusing on what's going on in front of our physical body, we're just kind of turning our awareness on toward what's inside our own head. The question is, did your inner world become more complex over time, or was it fully fleshed out from the start? We're not positive. We know that there has been some changes that have occurred over time, uh, at least in how we perceive our inner world. But because there's so much to a whole planet, we're not positive if it's just our awareness of the inner world has actually changed, or if the world itself has changed. That's one thing that we've been trying to figure out recently, or at least put more focus on. We've been spending a lot of time trying to journal, to write things down, kind of note like simple things like how many continents are on this planet so that we can look back and go, oh, back in so and so date, we thought there were this many continents. Now we think it is this many continents. Is there an actual change, or has our awareness of the planet become, has changed? Yes, this panel is being recorded. It is 5 minutes till. Is there another panel that is happening right after this? I know everyone. I'm really excited to go back in and have um, a continued go around with what Orion was talking about, because we love that kind of stuff. Um, there is an art stream in 20 minutes. So if there's not, like, if anyone has like any last minute questions, we're happy to answer them, but we are excited for the idea of a round 2 on Orion's panel. If Orion is still game for having that. We love you, Orion. I think Orion's already, sorry, has Orion already left for the panel? Ah, there's Orion. Trying. Orion's talk was moved tomorrow. Oh, cool. We'll definitely have to go to that. Trying to get. We'll try to do 2 more questions before we definitely end the stream. Does your inner world experience time at roughly the same rate? Yes, as far as we're aware. Depending on where we are in our inner world, obviously when the sun sets and the moon rises differs based on the time of year and where we are at any given time, but there does seem to be like a similar rhythm to like spring is also in spring here. Winter happens also when there is winter here. The last question we'll do is, how do you typically switch front, access your inner world? Can you ever unlatch the front and explore while staying lucid? Yes. For us, while we do have a place in our inner world that we like is a physical manifestation of front, someone doesn't have to be necessarily at that location to front. So yeah, that's just kind of how we experience things. So with that, unfortunately, we do have to end the stream. Thank you everyone for showing up. We apologize if this was a very sorry, a very disjointed and very chaotic panel. We knew that that would be the case with this being an AMA. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a glorious time with this, this first day of OtherCon. Please drink water. Remember to take your medications as you need, and please take, eat what you need and get enough sleep. Blessings, everyone.